Hi everyone, so I'm going to do the reading routines tag. I was tagged by Kelly from Half-Blood Prince Lover, so thank you Kelly very much for tagging me. So the first question is, when do you read? I usually read at night time, so when I'm going to bed and when I should be asleep, so usually the early hours of the morning. If I'm enjoying the book, I find it very hard to put it down. So yeah, night time's the typical time that I select for my reading, but I mean, I've been on summer holiday break for almost 2.5 months now, and I've had a lot of free time, so I mean, so long as I feel like I don't have to be doing anything else during the day and I don't feel guilty about it, I'll lounge around and read during the daytime as well. At any hour, it's just dependent on my mood, as everything always is. Where do you read, rather? Even though I've been told a million times by my chiropractor and by massage therapists and whatnot that I shouldn't do this, I read in bed, usually. And that's very bad for your neck and very bad for your back, both your upper back and your lower back. It messes up my sciatica, makes my fibromyalgia terrible, but I do it anyway. And it's purely because it's out of habit. That's where I've always read, really, in bed. It's just for convenience as well. But I mean, I'm happy to read on the couch and in chairs and, you know, the places where you actually should read, but usually in bed. How many books do you read at any one time? I used to only read one book. For years I was just a one book kind of person because I couldn't handle more than one story clouding my brain. But because I have been purchasing so many books and so many books so little time, it's that mentality. I feel like I have to get through more books. So I've been trying to juggle at least 2 at the one time. I have tried 3 before, but it failed. And usually the 2 doesn't even succeed. Like at some point I actually have to put the second one down and just dedicate myself to one of them. But yeah, it's primarily just to try and save time and feel like I'm getting through more, so I can look forward to more books and I can keep buying and keep reading. And yeah, because there's so many books on my shelf that have been there for ages and I still haven't read them, so I'm trying to get through more. But yeah, I find it easier to balance if they're either of a similar genre or if they're 2 entirely different worlds, narratives, characters, if they're majorly polar opposites or they're kind of similar. Yeah, it's not a good idea to read more than one fairy novel at a time though. That's dangerous. Do not do that because you get so confused. And I know. Do you take breaks in between reading? Now, I read that question in 2 different ways. When I'm reading a book, yes, I'll break whenever. It's been incredibly rare that I've ever read a book in one sitting. I mean, even Harry Potter novels, obviously you had to stop to eat and sleep a tiny bit, like 1 hour, during those. I mean, they're probably the ones that I've like streamlined through the most out of all the books I've ever read, and understandably so. But yeah, I mean, I take breaks whenever, whenever I feel like it, whenever I need to while reading. It's just, yeah, it's just dependent on how I'm feeling, how I'm reacting to the book, what else I have to do, where I am, what time it is, all that kind of thing. In terms of, do I take breaks in between reading books, like I'll finish a book, do I go straight on to another one after concluding that? It just depends. I used to have really long, like month-long breaks between when I'd read and when I'd read again. Thankfully, over the past like 2 years or so, I've become much more prolific and I'll just keep reading one after the other, which has been great. But I mean, yeah, I have had really dry spells of reading in the past. Do you skim through books? Not purposefully. The only time I will skim is if I'm not liking the book and I want to try and see if it's going to like get any better. So I'll like, you know, flip through to see if there's anything at all going to happen, if something's going to change, if I can decipher anything that could be incentive for me to keep going. But other than that, I don't think I've ever really skimmed. I will confess to something though. I used to be someone who would flip to the last page and read the final line of the last paragraph of the novel. I was one of those people, and it drove my friends crazy. They'd yell at me all the time. And I did do it. The last line of Deathly Hallows, I covered the rest of the page. All I wanted to see is if the last word still was Scar, and it wasn't. And it didn't I mean, obviously, we all knew he wasn't actually going to die. So, I mean, it didn't really spoil anything. I only read the final sentence, I promise. But yeah, I don't typically skim, but I have done it before. And that's just to see if something's actually going to be worth my time. And usually it's proven that it's not, and I stop reading the book. And finally, how long fast does it take you to finish a book? And again, that's entirely dependent on my mood, how I'm reacting to the book and what else I'm doing at the time, the length of the book, how it's paced, whether or not I'm compulsively feeling like I have to keep going, or I feel okay to, you know, put it down, wait a few days, pick back up. So, I mean, typically I'd like to finish my books within a week. Like, once I've stretched past the week limit, I feel like, oh, I'm plodding along with this one, and that's, like, irrelevant of the size of the book as well. But, I mean, I'd say a good book I can usually get by, and this is just reading it at night time, I can usually knock it over within 3 or 4 nights of reading, I would hope. Because I am a fast reader, but, yeah, it's so, it varies from book to book, it really does, so I can't put a generalised answer on that one. And that's all for now. I've rambled too much and I haven't made much sense. But thank you again to Kelly for tagging me. It's been fun to talk about this stuff, and I'm pretty certain everybody else has been tagged for this one. 2 names I couldn't see in other people's taggings, Dawn, Titancia, and Laura Elwing. I'm sure the 2 of you have been tagged, and countless others, but whoever's watching this video and wants to do this, go right ahead and do it. I'd love to see your answers. And that's all for now, everybody, so goodbye!